Good morning. It's about not quite 7 o'clock, 6:45 a.m. or so. And I'm east of Dawson, North Dakota, heading out of town. I stayed last night in their campground. They also had this really quite nice town. I mean, there's nothing in the town other than a grocery store that was only open until 2 o'clock, so I wasn't there for that. And a bar, I think I didn't go in. But the town had a little information kiosk and they had public restrooms in there, which was very helpful. I guess every trip has to have a worst moment, and the worst moment of this trip so far was last night. I set up my tent early, walked into the town proper to use the public restrooms, came back to my tent, and it was only about 6:30, and it was so hot that even just laying in my tent, I was just sweating like crazy. But there was a lot of mosquitoes outside, so I just stayed in the tent. Eventually, I think I fell asleep and woke up hearing a bit of thunder. So I thought, well, I better be on the safe side, and I went out to close up my tent for the rain, and as I exited the tent, it just started to pour. So I got a bit wet, but managed to run around and do it quickly. But the rain was so hard. I've never done this before, but in the tent, I really didn't think my tent was going to survive it. And so I packed up everything in the tent and sat there with my shoes on and the pack all ready to bolt. And I figured I would just leave my tent lay there and come back later to fetch it. But as it turned out, my tent survived. That was part A. Part B was that the onslaught of mosquitoes that followed was worse than I have ever seen by a lot. There were hundreds of mosquitoes lining the mesh of my tent. And being an old man, I have to get up and pee in the middle of the night. And when I did and got back in, I had to kill, I'm sure, 20 mosquitoes if there was one. Blood in the tent everywhere because, the mosquitoes would get me, and then I'd squish them against the wall of the tent. And it was just horrible. Not to mention everything, it's all foggy today and humid. So everything is wet. So yeah, I'm obviously in a bit of a complaining mood this morning. But I'm consoling myself by thinking that perhaps that'll be the worst night that I have on the trip. We'll see.